Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this pale blue dot that we all live on. My name is Adam-Antium, and welcome to this edition of AAU TZM podcast. Hope everyone out there is feeling well, and thank you all for listening. Today I'm very pleased to have a very special guest on the podcast, but I'll get to her in just a moment. But just for the usual announcements, for those of you listening to this on YouTube, my podcast also exists on talkshoe.com. For those of you who want to listen to and download the full 60-minute podcast for free in MP3 format, you can find them down below in the video description. There's a link there. You can go to the TalkShoe page to download them there. The other announcements, because I wasn't able to make this announcement for the last show, few days after the last podcast, I held my own Z-Day event in Maidstone, which was interesting. It was the first event of its kind, actually, first ever Z-Day event to be held in Maidstone in Kent. I myself basically booked up the first floor function room of a pub called the Old House at Home in Maidstone, and invited loads of people over. I think about 8 or 9 people altogether, which doesn't sound like a lot, but considering the energy that was in the Q&A at the end, it felt like there was twice as many people. The 2 videos out of 3 are already up on YouTube for that. The introductory talk that I did was about a 15-minute talk, and also my transitional doing presentation. And obviously there were some issues with the video. Basically, I had to run it through a video editor because I accidentally put the camcorder on high sensitivity mode. So I had to clean up the video there. So I do apologize to anyone who's video geeks. I do apologize there. But overall, the event was really, really good. It was only a 3-hour event, but I did some short screenings, an introductory talk, did my presentation, then had a Q&A at the end. At this moment in time, I'm in the process of editing and slapping together the Q&A video. That's it for my event. There was a event in London that I went to the following week. That was March 16th. Very, 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 very good event. Jim Phillips hosted it. But yeah, basically the idea for the London Z-Day event this year was very different because we had only one speaker for the Zeitgeist movement, and also a Q&A panel at the end, which I was part of the panel for. But yeah, that was good. But the idea was that there was only one TZM speaker, and all the rest of the speakers were from other organizations. And that was fantastic because it showed that the Zeitgeist movement itself isn't going to be the way that we're going to actually achieve this. We're going to achieve this by bringing other parallel organizations together and actually making this change possible. But yeah, if you want to find out more about what happened at the London Z-Day event, the videos are coming online for that one. Jim Phillips's presentation is up already. There's also the live webcast that was done. That's up on YouTube as well. But if you want to get a broad overview of it, Ben McLeish did a blog talk show discussing that event along with the LA event. If you go to www.blogtalkradio.com/ZM Global, that's the blog talk site for the main global radio show. You can find Ben's latest radio show there. But that brings us full circle now, because I've wasted enough time with the opening announcements, because the guest that I'm speaking to today was actually one of the speakers at the Los Angeles event, which I actually stayed up all night to watch, which was really cool. But my guest today is Brandy Hume. So if you'd like to say hello, Brandy.
Hello, everybody.
Fantastic. So how are you today?
I am doing great. Still on a bit of a high, if that's a word I can use from a Z-Day. So it's kind of good to be able to kind of talk about some things and just kind of, do some brainstorming and get everything out and feeling good after you've had so much just energy and emotion from this huge weekend with so many brains all in one room talking about things. So glad we got an opportunity to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I found I think when I was going home from the London event, I started having kind of headache because my brain was on overdrive all. Do you ever find that after a long period of time of like talking to loads and loads and loads of people, you kind of just feel so exhausted? Do you get a kind of headache thing, or is that just me?
For me, it's a little bit different. I think when I'm actually talking about it with people or getting really involved in something, there's like an adrenaline rush, and I don't really get a headache necessarily. That for me more comes from when I'm actually trying to do something. If I'm doing a lot of writing, a lot of email communications and documentation, that sometimes will give me a bit of a headache, but just with the talking, I don't know, that it doesn't do it for me, fortunately.
All right, that's cool. Well, well, I'll tell you what, for those of my listeners who may not be familiar with you, do you want to give us an introduction to who you are and how you came to discover the Zeitgeist movement or the Venus Project?
Sure. Well, my name's Brandy, and when I first found out about the Zeitgeist movement, I had actually already seen first Zeitgeist film, and then it wasn't until the second one that I had kind of been introduced to sort of a broader view of what's really going on. Just to make a long story short, I had actually heard about the first film from a friend. I was living in Los Angeles, California at the time, and we were just talking about just general stuff, politics, and I don't even remember the details of it, but he had suggested, you should watch this. People are so stupid, I think is what he said. He was like, you need to watch this documentary. It's called Zeitgeist. And then he's like, on second thought, don't watch it. Don't watch it. He's actually a really cool friend of mine from Italy. His name's Jonathan Anzalone. Like a lot of people might know him. He was on So You Think You Can Dance once, I think, and then now he's on like some dancing show in Italy. But I always bring that up because it's interesting how people view things when they're from different countries. He was just talking about how he wants to move. He doesn't want to live in America anymore for a lot of the reasons, a lot of the things he saw, even though, obviously a lot of these problems are rampant everywhere. But he said, on second thought, don't watch it. It's just going to like mess you up for life is what he said. But I was like, it's too late now. You have to tell me. So he texted me, the title later and just said, Google it. It's called Zeitgeist. You got to watch it. So I watched it by myself in my room on my laptop with all the lights off. And it was like watching the scariest movie in the world. I couldn't sleep. I'm serious. Like I just felt weird. Like I didn't literally think that anybody was going to come through my window, but it was more of just a feeling of disillusionment and like fear. I'm not saying that it was trying to do that on purpose, but I'm sure that when you start to really just overthink things that can happen. So I just kind of, slept with the light on, and I think I turned some music on. I was just trying to sort of clear my mind and not worry about everything that I'd just been exposed to. And it's not to say that you just take everything at face value. Obviously you want to research it and whatever, but it was just the big, overwhelming of all the information that came in, and just the, sort of exposure of things that you didn't necessarily give as much thought before, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the part in the Matrix where Morpheus and Neo are in the construct, and Neo starts to freak out, where he just says, let me out, and they just unplug him, and then he collapses on the deck and throws up. Like that. Was it kind of like the emotional part of that feeling?
Right, exactly. And it was really interesting though, because a lot of it was, some of it was sort of a negative feeling, like, ooh, I don't like this. This is eerie. But some of it was actually, it was kind of, liberating. And it's hard to talk about this with people sometimes, because I think they sometimes misconstrue when I say this, the religion part of the movie. I know there's a lot of debate that circles around that and everything, and it's not really relevant to what we advocate in the movement. So I think a lot of people get, oh, well, see, that means that the Zeitgeist movie convinced you not to believe in God. And that's not really the case for me. I was already sort of a rational thinker in that regard. I think I just didn't want to talk about it with anybody. I was very uncomfortable because I was raised Catholic. And so I just was kind of like, I'm not going to even really, I must be crazy. Obviously, religion is perfectly normal and rational because everybody does it. So I must be the weird one. And it wasn't until I saw, oh, wait, this is an actual thing. Like, people doubt this, like, for real? Oh, okay, wait, never mind. Maybe I am kind of normal if I'm questioning things and I'm trying to, learn for myself and rely on science and look into history and try to figure things out for myself, that doesn't make me weird. That makes me a smart person.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, what that helped me with. But I guess the more important thing, though, is that it was, I don't know, maybe a year later that actually, at this point, I was with Justin already, and we had both watched Zeitgeist Addendum. And when we saw the Venus Project, we were just so blown away. It was kind of like whatever the first movie made you feel times 1,000. Like, not only do I feel like I understand more things, but now I have something even more to chew on, something even more to think about that makes really almost all the first stuff irrelevant because it's just a bigger picture,
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the first time I watched Addendum, I was sat up in bed, I think it's something like 2 a.m. and it was the sort of, I couldn't sleep after. I mean, what you described about, your reaction about the first Zeitgeist film, I felt that with Addendum, because I'd gone through a period of watching loads of different documentaries. Like I watched, I think it was Earthlings, about a couple of weeks before that. And then I watched Addendum. I think immediately after, I think probably for about 2/3 of Addendum, I was just sat there with my hand actually over my mouth going, what the hell am I saying?
Right. Yeah. And I must say that with the second one, it was definitely, again, it's just so hard to even describe that feeling. It's such a mixed feeling because I will say that I think the second one was more of a positive feeling, obviously, a more feeling of hope. Okay, we can move forward from here. This is something. But I think the sort of frustration definitely stemmed from the fact that why am I seeing this? And yet this is the first time I'm seeing it. It was almost kind of annoying. Like, you have to be kidding me. If there's something this great that's possible, why am I watching this in my room right now with Justin and it's not all over the news? Why aren't we doing this?
Mm.
So so many things didn't make sense to me. I was like, I want to know. I have to know the answers. And that's one of the reasons, I'll get to that in a second, why I ended up doing the Venus Project Challenge, is because I had the desire to learn everything I could about that the same night. We stayed up all night. We didn't even go to sleep. We just went to the Venus Project website and read all of the questions, all of them. Not half, not a quarter, not 99%, every single one. Because even when you thought you were done, you were like, oh, but I want to know this too. Okay, wait, what about that? And so before you knew it, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go one by one and read every single one of these. And I just read all of them. And it wasn't until after I was done that I was like, all right, now I can at least try to go to sleep. But it helped because it was all fresh in my mind, after having just seen the film and reading all the questions and the answers. It was like almost like a puzzle. You could fit all the pieces together and understand it much better than you could if you just kind of went to bed with all this wondering and stuff. So, but eventually that wasn't even really enough, obviously, because it didn't answer my question as to why I was the only one so caught up in this. I mean, as far as I knew at that time, I wasn't really aware of the movement and the forums and things that were going on online. So I just did as much research as I could. And I wasn't finding anything satisfactory. I was finding nothing but just silly forum discussions, people saying it's NWO, and just anything they could find to completely discredit the project. And I'm thinking to myself, you have to be kidding me. Like, there has to be a real reason, right, that we're not doing this that I don't understand. There's got to be a legitimate, factual reason that I don't know about. And the longer time went on and there was no such thing, I thought, okay, somebody out there has to